Hey everybody, welcome back. We're going to start our reloading series. The first step we do in our reloading is we anneal our brass. My fire brass goes in one of these MTM cases, the red one. Then as we process the brass, load it, my final rounds will end up in one of these green cases. So the brass we're working with today is going to be on its 6th firing. I think I'll get a lot more out of it, and part of that is because of the annealing. We'll set up the bench source annealing machine. We'll show you that footage, and we'll talk about it while we're doing it. So stay tuned as we anneal some brass as part of our reloading process. Alright, as you can see here, we already got the bench source set up and we're annealing our brass. Why do we anneal our brass? So it's going to soften our shoulder, case neck junction, and our case neck itself. That's going to avoid work hardening as we resize the brass and we bump the shoulder. What this does is it's going to give a longer life to our brass. Like I said, this brass is getting ready for its 6th firing. Hoping to get maybe 20. We're going to go essentially until our primer pockets loosen up a little bit. The other reason we anneal our brass is we want to get a uniform neck tension. So all this brass is heated to the same, and then it's worked through the dies, and as we set that final neck diameter, we have a good neck tension on the brass, which we hope gives us more consistent reloads. So as you can see, I use the bench source annealer to do my brass. I would say that annealing is an advanced technique. If you're a new reloader, don't sweat the details just yet. Work on getting yourself some good loads, understanding how everything works, and then we can graduate to this. Before I had the bench source, I used a drill and a torch, but I think the bench source has given me a little more consistency. Recently I heard that one of the famous I'm going to say bench rest F-class, I know has been in a lot of disciplines. He's an awesome shooter, and he has the credentials to back it up. The new rage is this AMP Annealer, which is an induction annealer. I'm sure if you do a quick search you can find it, but he made the statement that if you don't have an AMP Annealer, don't waste your time annealing. To me, that's a pretty grand statement. I mean, on one hand, who am I to argue with a world-class shooter? But on the other hand, I think what we're shooting for here, pun intended, is to prolong the life of our brass, to make it where we can work it through that shoulder bump, we can work the neck down, and we can get that consistent tension. I think if we weren't to do that, our brass would last half as long, if that, and then we would have varying tensions on our neck. You know, there's been a lot of medals, a lot of championships won with annealed brass before the AMP came along. You know, if you can afford one, I say do it. I'm very pleased with this bench source annealer, and I think it helps us out quite a bit. Basic setup on it is I try to keep that blue flame about 1 inch from my shoulder neck junction. I think I'm going about 5 seconds once that brass hits the flame, and you can see the color change down the case, and then of course it rotates out, dumps in our pan, and we're working through 100 pieces of brass. What you don't see off camera is I'm pulling this brass out of my red MTM container. I'm inspecting it, maybe giving it a little wipe down before I set it in the carousel. This lets me make sure all my brass is uniform. I don't see anything really weird with it. I do not pop the primers out. That's going to happen in the next step, which is going to be our sizing step, we're going to bump the shoulder, squeeze the neck, and run it through a mandrel. And this annealing prepares it for that. So right now I'm just going to let you listen to the wonderful sound of the annealing machine as I go through these 100 pieces of brass. I'd encourage you to comment below if you have any questions or if you'd like to see something else when it comes to this annealing. We need you to subscribe, like, and share so that we can keep putting these videos out. And it's not going to be very long, and I will see you with the next step in our reloading process.